Look what you did, you little jerk!
Put your ears on, jerk faces. We got another episode of the Circle of Jerks podcast for you, and obviously we got Andy and myself doing another remote podcast. And I guess you've seen before on Nocturnal Transmissions, but he's now on the main podcast. Someone that I highly respect and actually love. My father.
Right, the only man you'll ever love, right, Robert?
I thought he was talking about you.
And so for today's episode, we got another. We did one with Eric, kind of a double feature, doing the compare and contrasting of Goodfellas and The Irishman. But today we're also going to do another double feature movie review. But we're also going to talk a little bit about the culture behind these films. And well, Andy and I could, we do our research. We'll talk about it a little bit, but I figured bringing on someone that's actually lived these experiences, that can talk about it from firsthand experience. We're going to be talking about Smokey and the Bandit and another movie, probably lesser known movie nowadays, King of the Mountain. And I guess we'll start off with talking a little bit about Smokey and the Bandit. And Andy, why don't you give us a little bit of a synopsis of the film, and then we'll get started.
Right. Whoops. Caught me off guard there.
So, come on, Andy.
Bad product placement. You got to turn it so you can see the label.
Well, I know. I know how to. We trust me. I had to tell these guys how to do product placement. Well, yeah, we got our Coors beer to yeah. Well, both movies highlight Coors beer. King of the Mountain, not quite so much. I got my trucker hat, with Jerry Reed playing Snowman and Smokey and the Bandit. Dad's got his Mulholland Raceway shirt for talking about King of the Mountain. He's got his Meyer frame. I mean, we're all decked out here. Andy, what's up with you, man? Why are you celebrating these two films?
I do, but in my own unique way. I do celebrate it just in my own unique way. That's all.
Okay.
I celebrate it because I'll be talking about it. I think I'm not one to put on airs. This is completely not within my wheelhouse. So.
Wheelhouse, nice reference.
Thank you.
See, you're in there.
I'm right there with you guys. It's probably, I'm just not gonna front and pretend like I know what I'm talking about.
You're not gonna fake it till you make it.
Yeah, no, well, not for this, because there's no way I could. It's like, yeah, exactly. That's basically the refrain. For this entire episode, that's gonna be my refrain. It's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're not gonna be like, if Bandit had more headlight fluid, he would have gone faster.
Exactly. Just needed some more. Yeah, just need that premium headlight fluid. All right. All right. The quick synopsis for Smokey and the Bandit. Big Enos wants to drink Coors at a truck show, but in 1977, it is illegal to sell Coors east of the Mississippi River without a permit. Truck driver Bo Bandit Darville agrees to pick up the beer in Texas and drive it to Georgia within 28 hours. When Bo picks up hitchhiker Carrie, he attracts the attention of Sheriff Buford T. Justice. Angry that Carrie will not marry his son, Justice embarks on a high-speed chase after Bandit.
All right. Well, where should we start? Because let me just say, this movie is, the more I watch it, the more I love it. It's got everything.
Yeah, it's a really fun movie. And one of the surprising things was that the sheriff, Sheriff Buford, was played by Jackie Gleason.
Yeah.
He does. It's crazy the kind of the transformation that happens for him because I'm not gonna say that I'm a huge Honeymooners fan or a Jackie Gleason fan, but I'm pretty familiar with the actor. But he was completely transformed for this role to me. And it's kind of hard for me to separate Ralph Cramden from Jackie Gleason, but for the character of Sheriff Buford, he was a completely different person.
Yeah.
He gets into the role well, and he does an excellent job of your typical redneck Southern sheriff.
Yeah, definitely plays into that trope. Yes.
I love the because his physical acting is also just brilliant. Like it's not just like he's got the I'm Sheriff Buford T. Justice, from Texarkana, Texas. It's got that, but like it's just it's like his whole body acts as well. It's
Right.
just he does a fantastic job.
Yeah, his even though like his manner is grotesque, but then also like his body movements are also very grotesque, which ultimately sells the character.
I always felt like he's ready to like have an aneurysm, just with like how like upset he's getting.
Yeah. Just like the kind of like the build up, and it kind of reminds me of like a steam whistle where it's like build up, build up, build up, and then like explosion.
Yeah, he's right there. He does a
And,
really good job.
Mm-hmm.
and I think there does have a little bit of a honeymooners moment where he says like where he talks to his son. It's like when I get home, I'm gonna punch your mama straight in the mouth.
You got to get the whole quote. Boy, there is no way you are from my loins. I can punch your mama in the mouth.
uh, it's such a great line. It's well, why don't we start with like kind of the because my dad has like he's like Eric. He's all prepared. He's got a bunch of notes and stuff.
Mhm.
He didn't quite write a manifesto like Eric did, but
Right.
he's got some notes that. So why don't we let him kind of share his insights on the movie, and we'll just kind of play off of that.
Right, Bruce, you have the floor.
Okay. I never smuggled Coors. So I don't have that feeling. I've never driven
Right,
an 18-wheeler.
right. In this
I love-
decade, you mean in this decade?
Yeah. Now it's legal. It's taken all the fun out of it.
Right.
I love the characters. Burt Reynolds.
Did you ever drive a Trans Am at least?
What's
That's
that?
it.
Did you ever drive a Trans Am at least?
I have driven ponchos, and I don't like the red dash lights. Um,
Oh yeah, that's right.
we've got, to me, there's the characters, the cars, and the the Trans Am was almost as big as any character in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And Hal Needham was a stuntman. He's the director of this movie, and he was good friends with Burt Reynolds.
Mm-hmm.
And he had seen an ad for the upcoming 77 Trans Am. He goes, oh, this is a great looking car. We need to put this car in the movie. Pontiac goes, yeah, we're not building them yet. Well, I saw one in the ad. So basically, what you see in the movie is a 76 Trans Am with 77 front sheet metal on it. But, and the difference is night and day. In 76, it had a single round headlight. In 77, you go to the dual quads, rectangular ones. So it's night and day difference, just changes the look of the car. And if you Google Trans Am, you will most likely come up with a picture of the Bandit. That movie made that car so stinking famous, more famous than Jim Rockford's car. Yes. Which is another word that's lying to you on TV. It's not really an esprit like they use, but so I like the characters. It's Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, Jerry Reed, Paul Williams, and obviously Jackie Gleason, and Fred the dog.
Oh gosh, you
Um,
can't forget Fred the dog. He carried that movie. All right, I'm gonna say it right now. He carried the movie.
Fred, you could tell he was the star. They carried him everywhere.
Right.
Um, Jerry Reed on the soundtrack. That was pretty cool. And so for you youngsters, and I know this is Robert's thing too, you might wonder, why are you smuggling Coors beer? Well, back in the 70s, Coors isn't pasteurized, so it has to be kept refrigerated so it doesn't spoil. And they didn't have a distribution system east of the, what was that river? Mississippi River.
Yeah.
And therefore it was evading federal taxes when it went there because there was no setup. That's the whole premise of the movie. So it's a real premise. And I think Burt Reynolds, when he's talking Cletus into it, which is Jerry Reed, he sums it up pretty succinctly. Why are we going to do this? Let me find it. Mostly for the money, for the fun, for the love, for the cars, for the money, mostly for the money.
Yeah. Was it
I'm
because Bo Bandit, he's so charismatic. Like he can I feel like he could get anybody to do anything that he wanted.
Probably, and the little, without getting mushy, the little love story going on between Bert and Sally Fields. Actually, there were some real sparks there, and later in life, Bert admits regretting not pursuing her. He was 41. They were both single back then. He was 41. She was 31. And they were both single, but he never pursued it. So it's, just a lot of gear jamming and racing, a lot of CB talk. And yes, back in the 70s, everybody had a CB radio in their car and they knew how to talk. What's your 1010? What's your 1020? That was all part of that era. Although the cops using a CB radio would be a little unusual because they had their Motorola's, but it made good for the movie, right?
Right.
Yeah, one of the funny moments because Sally Field's character Carrie, she seems like she's unfamiliar with the whole like CB radio scene and
Yeah,
like
jargon, like
everything.
all the jargon and stuff.
Yeah, and so there was where he's talking to he's like, oh, it's we got a 10-100 over here, with the, it's the cop taking the lead, and it's like, well, it's better than him taking a 10-200. Yeah. Or and then there was another moment where like just Bandit's hauling ass, and it's like I think it just went 10-100 in my pants. It's like better than 10-200.
Right, yeah, the callback, yeah, like, Sally, the Sally Fields character gets to kind of have her charming moment.
I love the chemistry between all the characters because you have obviously you have between Bandit and Snowman, Bandit and Carrie, Bandit and Sheriff Justice, and it's just and you even have Sheriff Justice and his son, and just the little quips that Bandit has he's so quick on his feet and quick with his words. And if you're not careful, if you're not watching the movie carefully, you miss some of these, quick-witted jokes.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. Burt Reynolds and even Jackie Gleason, or Bo and Sheriff, just developed their own unique relationship.
Right.
If we can back up for a bit, I think I mentioned this was directed by Hal Needham, who was owner of, he was a stuntman and friends with Burt Reynolds. And he eventually founded Stunts Unlimited. But in the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, their relationship between Hal Neiman and Burt Reynolds is portrayed by Cliff Booth and Rick Dalton. And if
That's
you go
right.
back,
Yeah.
if you go back to that movie and think about that relationship, that's who they were portraying was Hal Needham and Burt Reynolds.
Yeah.
So but it was well done, and the other star of the movie besides the Trans Am was the Kenworth W900A, which is the truck that the snowman drove, because the truck needs equal billing.
Yeah, of course. The to go back to what you're saying, because I think, and I'm trying to recall, because I was listening to a podcast, because uh, Burt Reynolds is also pretty synonymous when it comes to the NASCAR world as well. He was uh, he had gotten together. I think it's with him, the director of this movie, and Leo Jackson, who created the Skull Bandit team in
Right.
NASCAR, which became the synonymous with Harry Gant, but in like the 80s and the late early 90s.
The Skull Bandit, correct. Yeah, they funded that team, and eventually they went on a land speed record, and Needham moved into that, and that's a very much money losing proposition. But that car that he was developing eventually became the Budweiser land speed record holder.
That's right. Yeah.
So they never set a land speed record when Needham owned it.
Wow, it's crazy how like this movie, kind of, created all this other stuff that happened on behind the scenes. Like this movie was huge, and I was looking at the at some of the money going around here, because Burt Reynolds, obviously he was the highest billed actor. He made $1 million. He was so the movie overall cost about $5.5 million. Million of that went to Burt Reynolds for acting. So, but the movie itself cost like some $4 million. They made $300 million.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, I mean, this movie is, I mean, and you even look at back to, I don't know if you're familiar, Andy, if you're familiar with That 70s Show, but they made a ton of references to this film. This movie was huge.
It reestablished Burt Reynolds as a leading actor in Hollywood, and one of the top paid ones. For because he had done other stuff, but this really put him at the top, and continued for a number of years, and eventually dwindling down, and then he played Jack Horner in Boogie Nights and just about ruined his career.
Yeah.
Not that.
It's kind of funny because obviously the last time that you came on to the podcast, we were talking about American Graffiti, and Harrison Ford was kind of on his way out of acting, and American Graffiti is the one that spurred him back into Hollywood, into fame, and this is kind of the same thing for Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, and most people that probably watch Smokey and the Bandit, if you're not a car person, if you're not, it's just a fun, happy movie. Maybe you even watch it as a love story that happens to have cars and trucks in it. But Robert and I were wired just a little differently, and we, like knowing the weird stuff about the car, and there are so many tributes and clones to the Bandit Pontiac. It's not even funny.
Yeah, they're always coming out like, oh man, it's either, when it comes to like Pontiacs that are out there, it's either this one that's shown in Smoking the Bandit, or the Rockford Files, Pontiac Firebird.
Yeah.
But what was I? But even if, like, let's say you're not a car person, this is kind of like a mixture. It's, I guess you could kind of say it's a romantic comedy, because you know a little bit of the romance, but it's a kind of a slapstick comedy.
Yeah.
It just happens to use cars.
And Sally Field, you know, she had gone from being Gidget and the Flying Nun. This propelled her onto the screen. And
That's right. Yeah.
she's still acting. She's 73 now. You know, Burt Reynolds, rest in peace. But yeah, Sally is on that new TV show, Messages from Elsewhere or something like that. Dispatches from Elsewhere.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I heard that show. Yeah.
And it's, you know, I'm old enough. I've seen her entire career from Gidget, The Flying Nun, Carrie in this movie, some other stuff she's done, and now we're watching her as, you know, it's odd. It's like her career has eclipsed my lifespan because she started out my age, is now older than me because I'm still young.
Exactly. Well, you know, because I think you know, there's a few things like in here. You know, when I think of Burt Reynolds, I think of this movie. When I think of Sally Fields, I think of this and her in Back to the Future as Marty McFly's mother. Jerry Reed. I mean,
hey, she wasn't in Back to the Future.
She was Marty McFly's mom.
Wait, like original casting or?
In the first film.
I know, yeah, but you know, kind of like with Eric Stoltz, like original casting. You know, was she originally cast to play his mom? Because the mom is Leah Thompson.
I think initially she was the one that was cast to play Marty McFly's mom.
Okay, but so Sally Field was originally cast, but she never made to like the final cut.
You know what? You're right. You know, her and Leah Thompson look a lot alike, by the way.
Actually, yeah. Now that I'm thinking about it, now that I'm like picturing both, they do.
Yeah, Robert mentioned that the other day, and it didn't quite ring a bell. And I'm not very good with names, but you're right, Andy. It's Leah Thompson.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Jackie Gleason will always be known as as being part of the Honeymooners, but I think this kind of, because I think that this is one of his. I mean, obviously this and Smoking the Bandit too, but I don't think he did much after this.
No, and yeah, he was getting old and fat.
Yeah.
or we should clarify fatter.
Yeah, but that's not germane to the situation.
Right.
I don't know.
That's beside the point. That's beside the point.
What's the goddamn Germans got to do with this?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It reminded me like something you might have heard at Animal House or something, you know?
Right.
I just love the unapologetic, just kind of racism, Sheriff Buford T. Justice, and he has a very well-spoken, black sheriff, and he's like, and who is, has a very great vernacular, and he's like, what the goddamn Germans got to do with it? And when he finally, it's kind of like this risky business scene at the bridge where like he was like, I didn't wreck the car. It was this guy. And so when the black sheriff got out, it was the Sheriff Branford.
Yeah.
He gets out. It's like, I'm Sheriff Branford, and it's like, oh, you sounded a lot taller on the radio.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite line. That's actually my favorite line from Jackie Gleason's character. Yeah, because it's like, because he just comes out and like disrespects it like by calling him boy, and then he reveals himself to be the sheriff, and then it's like he kind of like that, the kind of save face. He goes, you sound taller on the radio.
Yeah.
Oh, and I love how like this movie is just apologetic. It's not PC at all. It's fucking great. I love this. I love all these characters, and
Right, and I
it's
think
well written.
right, and even for back then, I think this movie does a better like because just really dipping really quickly in today's society where where they're screaming their heads off about representation and whatnot. I think this movie back in like the 70s does a better job of representation than movies nowadays.
You
Oh
know,
yeah, like,
as I watch these movies, I wonder, could you really say that in a movie made today? You know,
Oh no, 1,000% no, 1,000% no.
and I'm sure there's some small segment of society that's upset about the rebel flag on the front of the Georgia plate on the front of his car that has the Confederate flag on it.
Yeah, right.
I know when people build clones of these, they put that plate on there and it just pisses people off and go, people, it's a license plate, it's a flag. Get over it. You know? It's but I'm sure if you did that today, some, editor or somebody said, well, you can't have that plate on the car. You have to put a happy face with rainbows behind them or a unicorn farting rainbows of glitter or something.
well, and we've talked about this too. Like considering if we're talking about the stars and bars as its own that I don't know how that became so synonymous with the Confederacy and all that stuff because that was not the flag the Confederacy used. That was a essentially a rejected flag of the Confederacy, and I don't know why that became so synonymous.
Yeah, that'd be a history lesson you guys would have to do. I mean, I know a little bit of it, and I'm sure starts as spoils of war, and slowly you become a group, and it kind of becomes associated with you. And then you decide you don't like this element of society, and suddenly these two unrelated items become synonymous as one. And it's, well, you've got a Confederate flag, you must hate all blacks, or you must hate all you whatever, short sheriffs. And it's not the case. It's a rebel flag. You're rebelling against something. It's not,
Yeah. Well,
my,
and
my
you know,
opinion. That probably won't make it up. That'll probably wind up on the cutting room floor.
but no, which one with, and if you really think about it, if because that flag is synonymous with rebellion, and that's exactly what Bo and Cletus were about. It was rebellion. It's like it's just we're doing it for fun, we're doing it for money, we're just doing it for the hell of doing it.
But mostly, then I actually
Well,
found that
mostly for the
quote
money.
for the good old American life, for the money, for the glory, and for the fun. Mostly for the money.
Right. It's yeah, because
Yeah,
like they I mean they summed it up pretty perfectly when they said like because they said that we can't do it.
Yeah.
I think for anyone with even like the smallest streak of rebel in them is like that's reason enough. It's like because they say that you can't.
that's
You
the
know what?
American way, baby.
I was never a huge Dukes of Hazzard fan, but Warner Brothers had to come out and said, "This is an entire aside," but they came out and said, "If you build a Dukes of Hazzard clone, you cannot put the Confederate flag on the roof anymore. If you do, you have to prove you built it before 1974." Well,
What the?
gas cars. So I was at a store and they had a Dukes of Hazzard with a Confederate flag. I had to buy it because it's like smuggling Coors beer. You tell me I can't have bullshit. I got one. I'm gonna take it.
It's well like if you don't if it's crazy because I mean if then you can't really you can't really even call it the General Lee or you can't call it a clone of because it's just another car then it's just another
Yeah.
car. It's
What
like
we have here.
it'd be like the Batmobile without like any of like the kind of kind of like the Tim Burton Batmobile. It'll be like that, but without like all like the Bat kind of design in it. They're just another car.
I don't know which Batmobile Jim Bird did. I'm
Oh, the
only
next.
familiar with the George Barris one,
Oh.
the real
Yeah.
Batmobile.
Okay, well, yeah, like the
But
the
it's just
most
another
maybe the
Lincoln.
most famous one is like the Adam West one, but it's like take all like the Batman branding off it, it just becomes another car.
Right. And George Barris did pursue that sometimes when people built clones, because he was the one who built the Batmobile.
Good. Well, that car was a concept car, the Lincoln Futura, and that was the car that they used for the Adam West Batman.
Right.
And if you take off Batman stuff, that's another. It's just a Lincoln.
And
Precisely.
how they got that car for the movies is still a mystery to everyone. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we'll talk cars instead of Smokey and the Bandit.
Yeah. Well, one other, and this is also kind of a because as the movie goes along, kind of Carrie becomes part of this. She becomes this trio with it's no longer the duo of Bo and Cletus. Now it's a trio of these three guy or three people. And one of the the last chase what I loved is where Cletus is pulled over by the police, like, oh, we're boned, we're done, and so it's like I need some help. So they Bo and Terry come hauling ass back over to him, do a 180 screeching burnout, and then she Carrie whistles at the cop on the motorcycle and just gives him the oh. It's like, and then they just all ass that go in the other direction. It's great. I laugh my ass off. It's a great chase scene, and it's like, are they gonna make it? Are they not gonna make it? I just all around the comedy. If you're looking for car chase scenes, this is one of the great car chase films. If you're looking for comedy, this is one of the great comedies. If you're looking for romance, maybe not so much for the romance. If you just like cars, this is your movie.
It is, and Carrie gets a CB handle, Frog, because it's cute. She hops around, and Burt Reynolds wanted the jumper. No.
Hey, could some tell me, or I mean, I know, but if would one of you mind enlightening the audience of what CB stands for?
Citizens Band Radio. So
Okay.
it's like a two-way radio. Well, it's more than two-way. It's multi-channel radio. They started out as 11 or 13 channels, and truckers use them for talking to each other. And I don't know. They went up to 29, and then they were 23, and single side band and all this. But Citizens Band Radio, you had to get an FCC license, and you key the mic, and breaker means you want to come in, and you had all this code, partly for mystique, partly so that, you know, trucking lingo. Seat covers was a slang term for girl in the front seat. That's why when Cleveland saying, hey, you got seat covers in there, and talking about beavers is kind of obvious. I don't know. Deals real close with seat covers.
Right.
And so, yeah, and Smokey is what they call the cops. So that was Smokey and the Bandit. Bear in the Air is the helicopter. And man, you had them in the 70s. We didn't have cell phones or pagers. And if you were in a car and you wanted to talk, you had your CB and you keyed your mic, and a lot of guys would put a 6-foot whip antenna on their car. And I will say, I did have a CB license. I never put a CB radio in my car. But
And it's so because the CB stuff, like I said, back in the 70s, it was really famous, and it was like a lot of people did it, and this movie just like it went even crazier.
yeah, and that was part of it too, was the whole CB craze and talking and making friends, almost, our social media for the 70s. we had moved on from carrier pigeons, and well, we had moved from stone tablets to carrier pigeons to CB radio.
To another movie that we're not reviewing on this one. What was the movie that I don't know if Andy's seen this movie, but referencing the CB radio talk. It was the what the hell was that movie called? Like the Candyman movie, not where they're pursued by it was like a late '90s, early 2000s kind of thriller film, and you have
Joyride.
Oh, Joyride.
Joyride. Is that what it?
Yeah. Great movie. Candy Cane and Rusty Nail.
That's right. Yes. But yeah, that was kind of like the.
I'm aware of this movie, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that was probably like the last film I've seen with like where TV radio was kind of like at the forefront.
Part of the theme, yeah. Andy, to give you a clue, that's the type of movie I like. Bizarre, offbeat, got a car in it.
those three criteria have to be prominent.
I
See, I know.
appreciate Repo Man, but I have learned to appreciate it for what it is.
Hey, the movie might be terrible, but hey, it's got a cool car in it.
Repo Man?
Yeah, well, yeah.
64 Spell and Emilio Estevez? Or yeah.
The brother Sheen.
Yeah. I'm so embarrassed I'm not even using my brother's last name.
Right.
What was it? Oh crap, what was the movie I was thinking of? Yeah, no, it's just I think I don't know. It's the CB radio was definitely part of it's one of the things used in the film. It was how you communicated with everybody. It was kind of I don't know. This film has it all, man. And even like the soundtrack, which was done by Jerry Reed, who played Cletus, and even that was kind of the narration of the film. I mean, the whole song was like kind of like it went with the montage of like, oh, this is what we're doing.
Yeah. The song would describe what was happening throughout the movie, and was it's a nice storytelling device for this movie.
And I hope that whenever this whole virus crap is over, if you guys drag me to the karaoke, like maybe I'll see if they have the song
Eastbound
Westbound
and
and Down.
You might bring your own copy.
I know.
Yeah, I'll make sure.
They don't have it? It's like, don't worry, I bring my own.
Andy?
Yeah.
During this quarantine in place, a good movie to watch. It's a short, won't take much time. Thank You, Mask Man.
Thank You, Mask Man.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen that.
I'm going to write that down.
Best watched with Bambi Meets Godzilla.
Wait, is this a real movie?
They are both real movies. Thank You, Mask Man is a riot. Bambi Meets Godzilla is even shorter and humorous.
And these aren't like MST Mystery Science Theater 3000 films?
They are both shorts. They are real movies. I think I saw them with Heavy Traffic, to give you an idea.
Wow.
I'm old.
No, I'm just surprised that I haven't seen them yet, because I've seen some obscure films with you guys and with you and Mom. I mean, one that comes to mind is Galaxina. I've seen that. How many? And then there's what's the one with I'm trying to think of something in the Marble Man.
And what is it?
Something in the Marble Man.
Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
Harley Davidson.
Yeah. I've seen your films in my day.
I've got a picture of you. You were about this high. You didn't come up as high as the seat, and you're standing next to the hero bike for the movie.
That's
Rick,
right. Yeah.
the painter who my bike painted up the movie bike for Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man. That wasn't that obscure.
We don't know many people watch it other than us.
Yeah, I mean, for our generation, it is. I mean, I vaguely know. I'm vaguely familiar with the title, but I've never actually seen the movie.
Okay. Because it had some big name actors in it, didn't it?
I think it did, yeah.
Probably. If I'm even vaguely familiar with the title, then probably there are some prominent actors in there.
And again, it's set here in the San Fernando Valley, which is, all my probation requirements allow me to travel, so anything that deals with. It's set over at Hollywood Burbank Airport, and it's kind of a neat movie. Gosh, I can't think of the guy who's in it, though.
I'm gonna look that up.
Anyhow, yeah, I do watch the pure movies, and I will watch them every couple years and enjoy them.
Oh wow!
Well, no, I mean, we watched some very obscure films in our top. Because obviously we're both Mystery Science Theater 3000 fans, so that's it's Mickey Rourke and Don Johnson were the two main actors.
And Mickey Rourke, he ran a neat little bar in Hollywood for a while that was quite popular with the biker crowd. See, that's how he got inspired to do it.
Actually, you know what I'm thinking for box office flops? This is definitely one of the movies because it was.
Yeah, I just saw the budget and the box office return. Oh, jeez.
Was it bad?
Oh, it was. It's a smoking crater. It's a smoking crater. Let me just.
7.4.
Yeah,
well, I'm gonna add because we're gonna be doing for our nocturnal transmissions. We're gonna be doing our live stream. We're gonna be doing a month of box office flops. One is gonna be with a film called Cleopatra, which nearly bankrupted the box. And Century City, that all used to be Fox Studios. That used to be all movie lot. But this is gonna be added on there as well.
I will see if Tracy can find the picture, because you were probably about 4 when Rick was painting the bike. Maybe
it came out in 91.
Okay. So 6, something.
Yeah.
I forget how old you are.
I was for it. I was.
Okay. You got your shades on, and you're standing next to this bike. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I recognize. I remember when this is going on. All right. Any other scenes or moments from Smoking the Bandit that you guys want to share?
Yeah.
I love how there was an Asian trucker, and then a student and he smashed through the Sheriff Buford's car, and then it had that stereotypical Asian music. That was the best. That was the best.
Yeah. So that guy, you watched The Office, right, Andy?
I'm familiar with
Did you watch kind of in some of the middle to later seasons? There's an Asian guy that sells that was part of the warehouse crew. That's the same guy that's in this film.
Oh, really? Okay. I never noticed, but
I had to. They don't have him on the as far as the cast list goes. For the Wikipedia page.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that guy was in The Office.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he sold the the penis flavored energy drink.
Penis flavored energy drinks?
It yeah. Dad, I'll send you the clip of this. It's hilarious. You'll recognize the guy, but like it's funny. It's a hilarious clip. Yeah, that was funny. But and you said, Andy, like this movie represents everybody, and it's not
Right, yeah. I mean, you had
like,
you had an Asian trucker. You had black people. You had women. Just like the whole rainbow. You had the entire rainbow in this movie.
It's just trying to be funny.
You had the female trucker too in that last convoy.
Right. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it's not like like these women, like it wasn't as though like women were relegated to these small parts, but there was actually a woman trucker. And even back then it was probably rare, but I'm sure that they existed. So they had their representation.
They weren't all relegated to the pink whorehouse on wheels.
Oh, that's right. That's right. And Cletus, who clearly had a really good relationship with that one black owner of the chokin' puke that he stops in, because they were very familiar, and they were very what is it?
Friendly.
Friendly, and like I dare say affectionate towards each other.
Yeah.
The biker group was really poorly portrayed. I thought that whole scene could have been edited and the movie would have been better for it.
They were a bit of a caricature and very two-dimensional.
Yeah.
If I was to make a nitpick of the movie, I think that whole thing could have been cut out and it wouldn't have changed the movie much. Just because it's like what was the point? Like other than them losing time, I guess. But the one part of that scene that I think should have been deleted was he gets the shit kicked out of him, and then but like you just see like he's dejected, he's like he's pissed off, but then all of a sudden you see this huge Cheshire grin go across his face because he sees all their motorcycles, like I'm gonna run all these motorcycles over.
Right. I mean, I think if I would definitely have trimmed down that scene, maybe just like have him at least get like punched in the face, like get like a little disrespected, right? But not get into like a bar fight. Just let him get smacked in the face. Let Cletus gather up Fred and then leave, and then him seeing his opportunity for revenge. I think that would have been a lot better.
If I was to go back in time and like if I had kind of some power to in this film, like if we were gonna leave that scene in, because when we see Cletus in the beginning, he's laying in bed. I don't know if he was drunk or whatever. But you maybe have like an introductory scene with him where he's getting the shit kicked out of him by bikers, and so it's like because there's this interaction between Bo and Cletus where it's like where he's talking about it's like I got back, I was in a fight, it's like did you lose? Yeah, business as usual, I lost. It's like and it's a joke. I think that would have been a good kind of way to kind of maybe make that scene, but otherwise, that was probably like the one scene where I'm like, I could have done without that.
What we didn't talk about was Cletus's wife. When Burt Reynolds goes to get Cletus up, Wynette, I think was her name.
Yeah, that's her name.
And with all the kids running around and just the little dialogue, which I don't have any of, but yeah, at least somebody knows how to, at least you're cooking something. And I can't look at you because when you have those things in your hair, you look like you're pulling in a radio station from Savannah. It was
Yeah.
a cute little dialogue going on there.
Yeah,
The
just
kids-
the banter. I think even
Yeah.
those small moments, like those kind of forgettable moments, like the banter was really like it was really well written.
Uncle Bandit, you know, the cool Uncle Bandit driving the
Mhm.
truck, and then he pulls the Trans Am out of the back of the truck, you know.
Mhm.
And that was a small scene that I did enjoy. You know, it gave you just a little insight into Cletus's life.
It's just the like I said, it's that quick witted, kind of those throwaway lines that normally like if you're not paying attention, you miss them. But man, it's so great.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more.
Well, do we want to like give our ratings at the end, or or do we want to give our rating for Smoking the Bandit and then cut to King of the Mountain? How do you want to do that, Andy?
Um, yeah, why don't we just give our ratings now?
Okay,
Yeah,
so
we usually we do it out of a 5 scale.
this is a 4.5 stars for me. I like I said, no matter what you're looking for, if you're looking for a car movie, this is a great car movie. If you're looking for a comedy, this is a great comedy. A little bit of romance, you got that. If you're looking just for just good acting, good dialogue, all that stuff, this movie has it. It's got it all. Um, it's just this is one of this is rocketing up my list of favorite movies. This might be number 6. I mean, it's definitely in my top
Right,
10.
in your top 10. Okay.
If I was just doing comedy films, this would be like in my top 5.
Oh wow. Okay. That's
Mm.
what's up.
Yeah, I love I've seen this is my second time watching it. I absolutely love this film.
He was cracking up quite a bit, right?
Nice. What about you, Bruce? What would you give this movie out of 5?
You know, I was leaning towards 4.5, but I think I'm gonna go more like a 4. It's a great snapshot back in history.
Mhm.
Burt Reynolds at his peak, Sally Fields at a much younger peak, Pontiac at its peak. Um, it's a lot of fun to watch. It's very dated. It's not one of those movies you can watch and still feel as contemporary. It definitely sets a time frame. And while I love that time frame, it's not for everybody, but it is. It's great acting, great car scenes. Yeah, there's some minutia that isn't quite right with it, but I enjoyed it, and I'll give it a 4 smoky burnouts.
Nice. As for myself, I hate to do this and keep up the meme of me and Robert sharing the same brain, but I'm gonna give this a 4.5 as well. This is extremely enjoyable for me. In a culture that's choking itself up more and more and more. It's just this was a breath of fresh air. Just to have a good laugh and poke fun at certain ideas and notions, because that's really what this movie was doing. The supposed like casual racism of Sheriff Buford was actually meant to remove the power from racism. Um,
Yeah,
and to kind of unmask what's really behind it, because despite like his like despite the casual racism of Sheriff Buford, you see like the sheer incompetence and the impotence of the man himself, which is to say like people. That's what's behind all quote unquote racists.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't think you'd enjoy it that much.
No, but in terms but again, I also really enjoy. It's you know we think that a lot of people might see this as like an anachronism, something from a bygone era, but it's like it's so well written, like the banter and just you know uh, Burt Reynolds' charm just comes in full effect in this movie. Because I think another movie where I think, well, more recent movie that you see kind of like that Bandit charm is when he did the remake of, oddly enough, Dukes of Hazzard, where he played Boss Hogg. He plays Boss Hogg, but in the TV show, Boss Hogg is kind of like a Sheriff Buford character, where he's like this grotesque caricature of the small town corrupt politician. But in the movie, he plays it like he's very charismatic and charming, and you see the kind of the bandit charisma shining through in his portrayal in that movie. And so even though I'm not that invested in maybe like the car culture or like the CB culture. I'm someone who enjoys a good story, and this was a really made and well told story.
Okay.
Yeah, and obviously I went to Texarkana, Texas, this morning to pick up some cores. So, it's I was ready for
Wow,
the.
yeah, you made you made really good time there, Robert.
Dude, I had to have cores for the episode. It's just it had to.
Right, yeah, you just had to.
Um.
All right.
Well, all right. Well, that's a review of Smoking the Bandit. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. If you love good comedy, if you're looking for some, maybe the one that you haven't seen yet, go and watch this. It's a great movie. It's great comedy. It's well written. It's quick witted. It's got everything, man.
It's very
So
very
all right,
unique.
yeah. All right. Well, let's jump to King of the Mountain, and now this has a lot of San Fernando Valley culture in it. And my dad has allegedly had a lot of involvement in this culture. And we even have pictures that we're going to be showing about this as well from my dad's days of running through his racing days, if you will. And now my dad, our family is a General Motors family, but there was a time where my dad was a huge Mazda guy. He loved the rotary motor,
Whoa.
and back in the 70s, early 80s, he had a RX-4, he had an RX-7, and I was yesterday. Before we started filming this, I was going through a lot of the pictures and hearing a lot of the stories, and it was fun to kind of relive his life through these pictures. So, Andy, why don't you give us a quick synopsis of the film, and then we're gonna jump into some of the culture behind the film.
All right. All right. So this is the synopsis for King of the Mountain. Steve works at a Porsche repair garage by day, and by night reigns as King of the Mountain, the most successful and talented of a group that organize, wager on, and participate in races up and down the narrow, winding roads of Mulholland Drive in the hills on the edge of the San Fernando Valley. In his highly tuned 356 Speedster, Steve races against both newcomers and veterans alike, never really considering the risk associated with the lifestyle or if there might be more for him elsewhere.
So this film, and I will say that I'm gonna come out. I do like this film, but um, there is a little bit of a uh, an anthology vibe to this film because it's almost like you're seeing two or three different stories in the film, and I think they should have focused more on the actual uh, rivalry between Cal, Dennis Hopper's character, and Steve. And you know, it's funny because my when because this is like the second or third time I've seen this film, and my when I was watching this for the first time with my dad, together with my dad, he was saying like, because he was telling me about this film, like how much he was like when we watched, it's like, what's all this music shit about? Yeah, who the fuck cares about the love story and the music? Like, I just want to watch the cars, run down the mountain. You know, and the actual car side of it, the torture that Cal has, Dennis Hopper's character, and and the story of Steve. It's actually a very, I think that's where the real story is at. Um, and I wish they had done more with it. Um, but I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about his time running down in Mulholland and his racing days. And like I said, he has pictures of those days. And I'm gonna let him kind of just run with it for a little bit, and I'll do some commentary as well. And maybe we'll Andy, you and I we'll throw some questions at him, and we'll also talk about the movie as well.
Take it away, Bruce.
Okay, don't build me up too much. They're not still looking for me with helicopters on Mulholland. So if you're not familiar with the I know you are, Andy, but I don't know, your worldwide viewership. Mulholland runs the crest of the Santa Monica Mountains.
Right.
And the movie opens with a very cool scene. It's a helicopter. You're following a little Porsche 356, get off the 405 onto Mulholland. And the main character is Harry Hamlin. Yeah, that guy. He's done some other movies since then.
Right.
But,
I think most famously, he was he's I think best known for his part in L.A. Law, the TV show.
And Titans.
Oh yeah,
and
he was also he was
Batman.
Perseus in Clash of the Titans, a movie that we did review.
And Mad Men too.
Oh, he does? Oh, I don't recall.
Yeah, he's got a role in there. So anyhow,
Okay.
Steve is the character played by Hamlin. 23 miles of Mulholland, slicing Los Angeles like a knife. It's like a trip in time. Sometimes I just can't wait for night. You see too much in the sunshine, roads changing, civilization choking it in. At night, the straightaways are shorter, turns sharper, the drop steeper. It's the only place I ever felt safe. Clear, clean, and fast. Freedom. I wonder who it'll be tonight. I hope he's fast. And that really is that whole counterculture car theme. That's what we live for, what they live for, those people. And there were really two distinct crowds back then. There was the straight line stuff and there was Mulholland Highway stuff. And I happened to have my Mazda set up. I had a friend who was racing B production Mazda. So I would get his slicks with like 1 or 2 sessions on them. And I was working at a wheel company, so I had 2 sets of wheels. I'd put my slicks on and I could go Turl Van Nuys Boulevard, do the zero, the little stoplight to stoplight stuff. And I once in a while venture up to Mulholland, but I'm not, certainly in my older days, my wiser days, I'm certainly not endorsing street racing. But it happened. And the movie features on a very real group, though. I believe they were called the Associated Canyon Racers. And there were two now I like Dennis Hopper. I like everything he's been in. He's just plays a cool part. And his name in the movie is Cal, which happens to be my dad's first name. And he's a ravaging alcohol, not my dad, Cal. Plays part of a ravaging
thanks for the
alcoholic.
clarification.
Yeah, and possibly drugs. And but it's based on two characters called Chris Banning and Crazy Charlie White. And Crazy Charlie did drive a big block Corvette, and Chris Banning drove a Porsche 911 that was an an RSR X Bazzani racing car, and he actually chopped the top on it. Which sounds horrible. If you know what a chop top is, you cut all the pillars and you lower the top a little bit. And he kept it in his living room. He lived off Mulholland Highway, and he kept it in his living room. Porsches, they would go on in the early 80s from Universal Studios. It was just, the Porsche theft rate was just atrocious. It wasn't if, it was when it would get stolen. But those guys really were the king of the mountain. And some of the real ACR racers were in the movie and helped produce it. And when they're talking about all the turns on Mulholland, they were correct in the naming. And they didn't even, if they were following like Hamlin racing through the canyon, they didn't re-edit it to, hey, sweeper comes before this, not after that. It was shot in sequence and shown in sequence. Not like three different camera angles of the same car taking the same corner to give you the effect of three different corners. Mm-hmm. So there was that to appreciate about that. And there really was this rivalry between these two. And there's a huge rivalry between Porsche and Corvette. On the street, on the track, in sales. To this day, when they release the C8 Corvette, they take it to the track Nürburgring in Germany, and they try and beat Porsche's time trials. So you've got the real competition between Porsche Corvette. You've got Cal and Steve. And then, like Robert alluded to, I guess there's some other story going on in the background about music and some gal who's just trying to screw her way into the charts, and some producer who's happy to help her, and a friend who'll stab his friend in the back to get into the industry. I don't know much about music industry, but I've been assured that, yeah, it's really that slimy. But the car portion, I really like it. It's accurate. I know before we came on, Robert mentioned, and this kills me, it's not really a Porsche 356. It's a VW kit car. It's a highly modified Volkswagen 350 that made look like a 356 Speedster. And they said because the value of a real 356 would have been too high. Well, back in the 70s, they were giving away those bathtub Porsches because nobody wanted them. But a 67 Corvette was still a fairly expensive machine. So I don't know what they were using for their metrics on that. I think it was put together by some Eurotrash who didn't want to hurt a Porsche, but wasn't afraid to run a 67 Corvette off a mountain. And because it was such a low budget flick, there wasn't a lot of off-screen documentation. I don't know if they really ran, that's the second generation Corvette. That was a 67 Cal's driving. I don't know if they really ran it off a cliff or if they had a shell they pushed off. The wreck at the end is just brings me to tears every time.
It kills me too.
It seems to be a small block Corvette with a single 4-barrel, which is nothing to be scoffed at. It's not a big block Corvette, though. So kind of makes me think maybe they really did take a 67 Corvette and soup it up. And Dennis Hopper, being Dennis Hopper, again, not a lot of documentation, but I see evidence that, yeah, all that beer he's drinking, he was drinking that in the car too. And the final scene, the producers didn't want him to take the car out. They said, Hopper's been up drinking and possibly doing other stuff all night. They go, we need to shoot the scene. Somebody in Pelican Car Forum still talks about this movie quite a bit. They talk about Chris Banning, who's put a book. They talk about the real Porsche. And they talk about Dennis Hopper. The guy came in and said, yeah, he got into the car drunk with a 6-pack of beer, had 3 cameras in the car that had like 300 feet of film or something that he could switch between for different scenes. He took off. He was gone for like a half hour, came back with all 3 films shot and an empty 6-pack of beer. So,
and Dennis.
I say this with all respect to Dennis Hopper. I love his work, even in Paris Trout, which is a movie that my wife hates. And it was tough to watch. It's grisly.
And Dennis Hopper was Methodist.
Well,
as fuck.
Andy, we looked at because we did a review of The Fighter not that long ago, and Christian Bale is one of our favorite actors, and he's very method, and we would not have been surprised had he been actually smoking meth to do this film. Dennis Hopper was method before Christian Bale was method.
Right? Yeah.
I would not be, like the whiskey that he was chugging in this film. It's like, Dennis, you're not supposed to actually drink real whiskey during the filming of the of the film.
But his dialogue is so intense. When Hamlin, he's out racing the curve with the girl. We can talk about the cast and stuff, but all of a sudden he feels a vibration and brings the car into the shop, and Cal gives him the lecture. It's the road, man. You feel Hopper's intensity, and you kind of, a good actor could probably portray that semi-crazed, alcoholic, drug-fueled intensity, but maybe it's a lot easier to get there. Say, hey, I'll be right back. But the cast was great in this movie. Harry Hamlin, Joseph Bottoms, Deborah Van Winkenbiller, who is Tina. Somebody you probably missed, Andy, you watched it. I had to point it out to Robert. So there's the scene where it's not it's Barry who comes back to Tina's bungalow late at night, and he's beating on the door, and the neighbor comes out from upstairs and yells at him, quit making all that damn noise. Do you remember that scene?
Yeah, I do remember that scene.
Do you remember the woman
with the red
color? I'll tell you what, I'll give you a bottle of detail spray if you know who that was. I don't want to go too high.
Damn. God, I don't know why I didn't look her. I didn't look her up, but she did look very familiar.
Does the name Cassandra Peterson ring a bell?
That's right. Oh my God, that's who it was. Elvira. I did look up like the cast. And I remember it's like, oh wow, Elvira's in this. But then I didn't think to look when I was watching it again. I was having like this buffering issue, so I stopped. I ignored like maybe like 5 to 10% of the movie, but I did remark to myself like, damn, that neighbor chick is hot.
I have seen this movie so many times, and I never knew she was in it. And so that I will sound somewhat intelligent, articulate, or at least I know I can read. I said, Cassandra Peterson, she's in it? Oh, that's who she is. God, you would miss it.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, I did miss it, but
yeah. I like the movie for the cars, for Dennis Hopper, for the valley shots, for the racing, for everything, actually the music, she's not a bad singer. I don't know if she ever tried to make it as a singer. Needed a little work with the writing because there were about 3 lines to the song near as I could count. Where you look, dangerous romance. Let's pretend I don't know your name or something like that.
Well,
But
the because Deborah Van Valkenburg, yeah, she actually did sing those songs. She's kind of like a poor man's Joan Jett.
Yeah.
And like because I want to get we'll talk about the lesser part of the film, but one thing I want to talk about with like Dennis Hopper that you were mentioning is like I'm with you. I love Dennis Hopper. He's a great bad guy. He's just a great actor. And the thing between with Harry Hamlin's character Steve and with Cal is they're essentially the same character, but like Steve is the unbroken version of Cal. Cal, yeah, obviously got into that wreck, and something in his brain broke. And you see, his he has this like weird, I don't know, addiction to the mountain, to the hill, and he's like, and obviously like he's always timing these kids. He's there every night along with these kids, timing the mountain and seeing if anyone can like because he is Cal is the king of the mountain until Steve breaks his record. And that's he knows that Steve it has that talent to break his record. And you look at it because the car that Cal is using, that's the car that he wrecked. And he's been rebuilt a decade essentially. And the car and Cal are essentially the same character. They're a mirror of each other. And same thing with Steve and his car. They're a mirror of each other. And it's that I really wish that the movie was that story because that story is very fascinating. And we look at a movie like Ford versus Ferrari, and a movie can be about cars, and it's a great movie. And I kind of wish this movie did that because the whole other side that we're going to talk about that could have been stripped out, and this movie would have been 1,000 times better.
I don't know if you could have sold it to a studio back in
81.
as, hey, we're going to do a movie about racing, Mulholland, bunch of street racers, without the story behind it.
Like I said, I understand that part of it, but and now this is a lot of the Monday morning quarterback, 30 years later, 40 years later, essentially.
Yeah.
And
welcome to 2020, Robert.
Yeah,
Damn.
God,
Damn, Robert, your dad's a savage. Your dad is a
old.
savage.
Yeah. But
oh, Robert, quickly tilt your camera up. Okay, there you go. Yeah, your eyes were being cut off.
But no, it's just the story of Steve and Cal is so dynamic, and I wanted more of those two characters.
Mm-hmm.
And and I feel like the 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 writers and the director, those were the guys that was the heart of the film, and they felt like, well, we're gonna throw this other stuff in there to kind of like make a film, but you could really feel that the heart of the film was these two characters and the cars that they were driving. And I just it hurts my heart almost to think that it just we didn't get enough. I want more.
Okay. I enjoy the movie too. And while I was looking it up, I ran across a review for it. And we haven't gotten Andy's viewpoint yet, but I was rolling around laughing reading it. And can I take a minute to read it real quick? It's like 2
Oh,
paragraphs.
absolutely.
Yeah, go for it.
And the guy actually thought, I actually thought the guy liked the movie. The movie has a pointless subplot about trying to make it in the music business. How subpar? The film has virtually no coherent narrative to speak of. It has horrendous ongoing subplot involving Steve's friend's effort to make it big in the music business. This narrative is exceedingly dull and superfluous to what little story there is. Hamlin and Val Valkenburg have literally no on screen chemistry whatsoever.
No.
The acting is universally over the top, especially when it comes to Hopper, who I suspect was out of his mind on drugs during filming. The characters are vapid, crudely defined, and experience no arc development. They routinely spout dialogue so cheesy, it makes you feel embarrassed for the actors. The cinematographer should have thought about legally changing his name to the Prince of Darkness. No offense, Ozzy, but the night scenes are so underexposed you could not tell what is happening. Wow, don't sugarcoat it, dude. Tell us what you think. So
Yeah, I mean,
I go, wow, this guy, he put some time into banning this movie.
Well, this is like I said it earlier. Like it's a bad version of like American Graffiti, where it's an anthology of stories, but this time I don't care about the different stories because, like I said, the music industry and the love story, like yeah, you're right, they have no chemistry at all. And after a certain time, like you don't, yeah, after like with like 20 minutes left in the film, you don't give a shit about the other like his Steve's other friends. Yeah, well, one's dead, obviously, but the other guy is a sleaze bag, and it's like, and really the story, like you said, the story is Steve and Cal, and they just threw all of that out for this terrible subplots.
Yeah. But it does, I feel there's some, instead of focusing just on Cal, there's a little bit of tension rising. Cal up there in his truck, timing people with nobody knowing, watching them get closer and closer to his time, knowing he's going to have to go down and, reclaim his throne. And think about like Pepe's go-karts.
Yeah,
You didn't have timing, but let's say you're not out there racing and you see some other hot shot and you're watching going, when that guy gets good enough, I'm going to have to go back there and put him back in his place.
yeah, fuck that kid. I'm gonna beat his time. I'm gonna win that race.
And that's what Cal's doing. And
Yeah,
when Hamlin beats his time, Cal snaps. That's
like
when he
that.
really goes over the edge. And I get that.
Yeah, that's the part of the movie that I love. That's the story, because I understand that as a racer, because I obviously I'm not a street racer, but I've been on the track and I don't want people to beat my time. I don't want people beating my time. I want to be on the racetrack and I want to be number one. I'm not there to run for second.
Yeah. And you've had that crown for 15 years and people have been trying to beat it. And now the guy you work with, it's a younger version of yourself coming along. And all of us, Cal loses his his friend named Buddy. And that's another car they wreck that it was I think it was a 69 Mustang Mach 1 that ties in. And you go, oh, was that a stunt double? I mean, I don't care if they killed the guy, but did they really crash a 69 Mach 1?
The guy hated American cars. I'll just say that.
I don't know, because there's not that much records and stuff of the movie. But Cal just all of a sudden shutting down and pulling the plug. That seemed, I can see going out on top, and maybe, Hopper had already spun out. I don't know. That didn't feel real to me.
This is the quintessential struggle in racing, because and this is a very real story, because we've seen it time and time again, where you look to NASCAR. Back in the 90s, Dale Earnhardt was the man. He was Superman, and then here comes his hotshot Jeff Gordon, who just destroys everybody. Like all the records. It's like he gets rid of everybody, and they fucking hate him. And then you have in F1 you have Alan Prost and Ayrton Senna. Yeah, Alan Prost is the guy, and then Ayrton Senna comes along and he destroys all the records. He's better than him, and even though they're on the same team, they hate each other. We see it in Ford versus Ferrari. Like, it's like Ferrari is the team, but then Ford is like, screw these guys. We're gonna build a car that's gonna beat them. And you feel that tension. There is this intense rivalry when it comes to racing, where it's like you're at the top of the heap.
Yeah,
you don't want some young upstart beating you.
It's the drivers and the manufacturers, even though it's done at the street level. Like I said, Porsche, Corvette. I was going to tell a quick joke from when I owned a Porsche, but I won't.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it.
Okay. Share with the people.
Okay. So it was funny. I just bought a 79 911 SC, and I'm hanging out with some friends. And he goes, "Did I ever tell you the story about the mouse and the elephant?" And I go, "No." He goes, "Well, a mouse is going through the jungle one day, and he hears, 'Help, help, help, help.' And he looks, and there's an elephant sinking in quicksand. And the little mouse goes, 'How can I help?' And he tries to reach him with a stick and with rope. Nothing's long enough. So wait, I'll be right back. And he runs home and he gets his Porsche and he drives up to the edge, throws him a rope, drags the elephant out of the quicksand with the Porsche. The elephant's really, really grateful and goes, 'Thanks, little buddy. I will be so careful where I step. We're friends forever.' A couple weeks later, the elephant's going through the jungle. He hears this, 'Help, help, help, help.' And he looks, it's his little mouse buddy stuck in the same quicksand. He goes, 'Hey, buddy, I can help you.' And he tries his trunk and it won't reach. He tries his arms and it won't reach. So he sits down and he spreads his legs and he flops his schlong out and it reaches the mouse. And the mouse climbs on and he pulls the mouse out. And the moral of the story is, if you got a big dick, you don't need a Porsche."
Oh my God.
And this guy.
Oh, that was great. That was.
I spent all this stinking money on a 911, and that's the first joke the guy tells me. Well,
that was great. That made my day.
Okay.
This is why we do the podcast.
This is why we do it. This for moments like this. Like this. Oh,
I'm here to help.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Bruce. Thank you. Truly,
no problem.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Bottom of my heart.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, so let's talk about the shitty parts of the film, because now that we've talked about the good parts of King of the Mountain.
Talk about what?
The shitty parts of the film.
Oh, I thought you said the titty bars.
I mean, if you're wanting to talk about Cassandra Peterson and Deborah Van Valkenburg, yeah, sure, we can talk about the titty bars of the film.
Oh,
this.
God.
Sorry,
I
is
love
the
this episode. I love this episode. This is the greatest episode ever.
It has been created rapidly. When I'm in the conversation, it happens frequently. So, okay. We're it's, I've gotten used to seeing her try to sing and make love to the microphone, sucking it like it's a big, and it's there. I can suffer through it.
It's like I said, this is a movie that's one. It's I'm longing for more of something that it's not giving me. And like I said, when it comes to the music portion, like it's realistic because I mean you have a poor man's Joan Jett and Tina, and I'm assuming the movie producer is Phil Spector, or a poor man's version of him, who's I mean, I feel just disgusting, looking at him, or hearing him talk. Hey, man, or one of the lines that I love in this film is just like, man, you're not selling it at your friend, you're buying in, baby.
Buying yourself in, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, you're fucking, oh, what a jerk. It's just and you're essentially, and this is what happens in like movie in the music industry in Hollywood, where you have all these friends that are working together to kind of create something, and these just swarmy producers who drive a wedge between these guys, and it's like, oh, so it's realistic in that sense. And you have like, because you have this trio of friends. Obviously, Steve is on the outside; he's doing his own thing, but you have Buddy, and you have shoot, who's the was it who's the other guy with the pop collar and kind of the
Barry.
yeah, Barry. Yeah, it's like he drives a wedge between Barry and Tina and Buddy, and it's just and it's very realistic, but it's God, oh, it's just you feel gross, just kind of watching that part of it.
One thing I found funny while I was reading various things about the movie is somebody complained about the costumes being overdone. And I watch it and I go, no, it is. Those weren't costumes.
Yeah, it's called the 80s.
Rust. Saturday Night Fever in a white linen suit is a costume. People wore bell bottoms like that, their shirts open, popped collars, I didn't feel any money was spent on costumes. I thought that part real. But I love some of the it's like watching a family movie where I know everybody, but I'm not actually going to be in it. But it took that, especially the car stuff and the small talk, it felt natural to me. Maybe I had crappy friends. I don't know.
I look at Steve's jacket. Obviously, he's wearing a like kind of a Porsche German jacket, but
Style auto with the
yeah, but you had a rotary motor Mazda jacket that's very similar.
I had a Porsche jacket before that, son. Black nylon, just like that. I don't think mine had the lapelettes or whatever they're called.
No, it didn't have those, but it's essentially like that's the same type of jacket.
Yeah. Yeah. We were taught me liking Dennis Hopper and lines. You had a good line. Yeah, you didn't sell your friend out; you bought yourself in. My favorite line was Dennis Hopper talking to Hamlin. Hey, some chick came by looking. I'll paraphrase it. Some chick came by looking for you. Drives a Citron. Oh, and that was Tina. Oh, what'd you tell her? What'd I tell her? Told her you had a small dick.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite line. What a friend, man. I'm not getting
Yeah,
laid.
what a
Nobody said
friend.
Oh man, like a bucket of crabs.
Andy, did you have any like moments in the movie that you liked?
I don't know if I would say I derived like that I like. But a lot of the story, especially like how you guys were talking about like the car story, the car side, or like the rivalry between Cal and Steve was the most interesting part. I couldn't agree with you more. Cal, what was it? Cal seems like kind of like he was like a spiritual guru that kind of lost his mind. He just wasn't ready for um, the knowledge or responsibility. Whereas Steve, seemed like that like what Robert was saying. Steve seemed like the more refined version of Cal. Um, yeah, I would have liked to have seen that explored a little bit more. But I also but also thought that Cal's stopwatch was very interesting because usually a timepiece is something just to keep track of time, but for Cal he was kind of trapped in his time. He was trapped from he was almost like a relic from a bygone era. And like the broken like the glass almost kind of what is it connotating that watch was broken, that it was only able to work within a specific time or specific range. So it's kind of like a metaphor saying that Cal was stuck. He
Yeah,
was stuck. He was stuck in his time, and I think
and
that was I think that was such a powerful metaphor.
yeah, and at the end, because obviously like the stopwatch falls out of his car, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like the ending scene with Steve. He you hear the ticking of the time watch, and I made jokes like, and on 60 Minutes, it's like like it's like you hear that ticking of the clock, and he stops it, and it's like that's where the movie ends, and it's like that Cal's time has ended. Cal and Steve's time has ended on
Mm-hmm.
the mountain.
Well, let me just bring Andrew and Andy in a little bit. So when you're a racer, you're racing the guy next to you, but you're always racing yourself and the road.
Right, right.
And I had a friend back in this same era. He drove a Lotus Elan. Think of a Miata that got washed and shrank. It's a very lightweight car.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it's a lightweight.
Miatas are pretty small to begin with. So
Well, that's actually what the Miata is styled after, is a Lotus Elan,
oh,
and
that's
it's
right. Yeah.
cylinder. And he drove north south across the canyon, and he
Mm-hmm.
lived on Camino de la Cumbre, and he had a stopwatch in his little Lotus Elan. And when he would cross Mulholland Highway, he would start the watch and try for a personal best every day on his way home from TRW. And one day he's at the stoplight, and we all used to work races together out at Ontario Motor Speedway and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
Riverside and all these other tracks. So he pulls up and he sees two Porsches behind him. True, this is a true story. And he sees two Porsches behind him. He goes, well, they'll probably get me by the third turn in. Whatever. Lights green, hits the stopwatch, he takes off, and he's hitting every apex, every corner. And he's watching, and the Porsches are hanging with him, and slowly they drop back. And he stays on his mind. He gets up to the next stoplight, he stops, and these two Porsches roll up beside him. They're RSR race prepped Porsches. And he looks at him and he goes, what were you guys, he stops a stopwatch. He goes, what were you guys doing? You could have passed me at any time. And they looked over and the guy goes, to be honest, we didn't think you were going to make it. And guy sets a personal best and gets deflated within 2 seconds of each other. But guys on roads like that with a stopwatch, it's a very real thing. And a lot of racers did that, street racers.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that felt very real that, Cal would have that in his car and was watching those guys beat his time. Even though Cal wasn't racing, he was still racing them because he had his time here and they weren't quite getting there. Anyhow, that was just a little aside.
Right. Well, just kind of bring it contemporarily. Before we began, I mentioned kind of what is it? A comment or a rating that someone put about this movie, saying for this particular person, they said that this was one of their favorite movies until like the Fast and the Furious came out. And it's pretty interesting because I did start seeing, I read that and I was like, huh, that's pretty interesting. But then I, was taking note of the movie itself, and I did see some parallels. And I think, and then when I looked up the synopsis for this movie, I saw that also that this movie was made by Universal, which the Fast and Furious movies are also made by Universal. So now, now I see kind of like the connective tissue between the two movies. Maybe people will see where I'm kind of going with this. But in the opening credits, of the movie King of the Mountain, it says that it was based on an article written titled Thunder Road. And interestingly enough, the title for the Fast and Furious movies, that actually came from an article talking about street racing in like the more contemporary time, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Fast and Furious first came out. So a lot of interesting parallels, and and then also kind of comparing it to Fast and Furious. There's in that movie, it could be Fast and Furious. It could be argued that that Vin Diesel's character and Paul Walker's character have a similar relationship to Cal and Steve, because Vin Diesel's character, he was supposed to be someone who's coming up within the racing world, but then something happens to his father and he takes revenge, and he's no longer he's barred from the professional side of racing, which gets him into kind of the seedy underworld of street racing. Oh god, I totally forgot. I totally lost my train of thought. I think oh god. Oh my god, I totally spaced out. Forgot. Lost my train of thought.
Yeah,
I guess I see your analogy between Fast and Furious and this movie. I think this movie definitely has a lot less special effects and Hollywoodism to it. It's a lot grittier, raw edge film than any of the Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. It was based on the article, and then Chris Banning, the character that this is based on, has actually written a book called The Mulholland Experience. Mm-hmm. And supposedly he still owns the same 911. And the second edition of the book is supposed, the first edition was kind of like the movie, where this is kind of disjointed and what are we talking about? And then they went in and revised it and did a second edition that was pretty good. And the kids today, they still go up and they run the snake in the canyon, but Mulholland isn't the same it used to be. The grandstands are grown over and developed. It wasn't really grandstands like in seating. It was just an area. Well, they
Right.
show it where you can park your car, but
Mhm,
they've built homes there now and overgrowth and everything else.
mhm,
And it's a shame there's not more legal avenues for racing.
mhm.
Um, it's a shame more young guys aren't into cars. But time moves on, and maybe I'm a relic stuck in the past. And this movie is
Well,
just a home videotape of something that
Now,
we used to do.
now, to be honest, unfortunately, like as far as and because I want you to talk a little bit more about I want you to show your pictures and talk about your days and this stuff. But I look at like the cars today, and obviously like, everyone's trying to go to alternate energy, and there's not a lot of cars that excite me today. There's a few obviously like there's cars that excite me, but it's not the same thing. You look back like 20, 30, 40 years ago, the cars are there's exciting cars that are just not coming out, and
Yeah,
I think that's also and there's a generation that especially like and I'm not talking about the rest of the country, but California is car culture. This is where cars are important, and and the cars are just there's not that excites me today.
yeah. There's not much that excites me either, but that isn't already in my garage. Um,
Yeah,
but, um, and the fines are a lot stiffer and it's a lot more congested. So there's a multitude of factors leading towards all that. Um, and kids, they look at a car as an appliance, like a refrigerator. This is its job. It gets me from A to B. The more doors it has, the better it is. And I have that expression. What four doors belong on? Two cars.
yeah, exactly.
Uh, and I'm certainly not going to try and glorify street racing or what was going on. This is the older, wiser, responsible person who you probably don't know speaking, saying, don't do that. Bad. I was holding up some pictures earlier of the RX-4. I don't know if those will turn, I saw I was getting reflection because they're
No,
glossy.
I what I what I want you to do is talk about those days and show those pictures. We're gonna put them up as far as the in the edit. I'll put you in a thing with Andy to put up the pictures, but I want you to talk about those days and like what you know hearing the stories of you talking about those days, like it's fascinating what that generation did.
Yeah, we played with cars. There was a Bob's Big Boy on Van Nuys Boulevard around Magnolia,
Yeah,
and there was another one up about Roscoe. That's what, 4 miles? I'm not sure. Maybe it's about 4 miles, maybe a little more. It might take you an hour to go from Bob's to Bob's. And actually, once you got going north, you wouldn't usually go up that far unless you were looking to get into trouble. Um, but the streets would be lined with cars parked. People would be on the sidewalk, and you'd just be cruising, more like the scenes in American Graffiti. You just cruised and you picked out your races, and it might just be, again, going back to American Graffiti was very real. It might just be stoplight to stoplight. And if it was more serious, you might go off to Raymer or something. And this was all straight line, acceleration stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And cars usually did one or the other well. Like in straight line acceleration, that Corvette would take all day long. Put them on the Canyon, and it's a little bit more equal. So you usually chose one or the other where you thought your odds were better. The Mazda was a rotary engine. There weren't many of them. And I had built it up into a high-strung race motor with help from Mazda Motors of American Racing Beat. My friend who ran B Production, B Production, I think, who'd get me slicks. So I could throw four-wheel slicks on, troll a little bit on Van Nuys, or go up to the canyon. And I never knew Mulholland as well as these guys did. But it was a culture, and it was cat and mouse, and the cops would try and shut you down. And you were surprised. There's actually a section of the vehicle code. I think it's 22.349 or 22.351, A, B, and C. And one section is aiding and abetting a street race, which means if you're the guy holding the flashlight, if you're the guy standing in the crowd and there's a street race going on, you can get a ticket. And the valley was a lot less populated. And the big racing wouldn't happen on Van Nuys Boulevard. You would go off to like Raymer, or there was another that was a deserted industrial park. And two guys might head off, more like when they go to Paradise Road and American Graffiti, only it wasn't that open. It was an industrial park. You'd line up, you knew where 1,320 feet was, and you just race. And maybe it'd be for money, maybe it'd be for the fun. And then you'd go back down, and that was that. You win or you lose. And I had a buddy of mine, you've probably heard me talk about Vernon, who had a very similar RX-4. Initially, mine was an automatic, his was a stick. And we would race, and I beat him with my car. And he said, I'm sure mine's faster than yours. So we traded cars. And I beat him again with me driving his car beat him driving my car. And we go, well, that didn't really prove anything, except you kind of suck as a driver. And eventually I converted mine to a stick shift and everything else. But yeah, it was, I don't know. Like I said, I don't really want to necessarily glorify those scofflaw days. And I certainly don't expect to hear you doing anything like that. And like I said, I was holding up some pictures. It was, I should show the stock one first, because that's Robert looked at and didn't believe it was even the same car.
Yeah, right now the screen is just on you, so yeah, flash away.
Oh, hee hee. Careful what you ask for, grasshopper.
I see where Rob gets it now. I see where Rob gets it.
I know I had one stock here. So, but I'm not seeing it. But it was it was a work in progress. I was always changing something on it.
Yeah, it went. It was like somewhat of like this like a tannish brown.
Oh, it was Alexandrite gold.
Alexandrite gold.
Not that I remember the name of it. I did have a picture of when I was painting it. So we're off the main podcast because I don't want to get too far.
No. I want to talk about this stuff because obviously, I think this is very interesting.
Robert was looking at pictures. So it's a 4x4 on a textured piece of paper. And this is what color it was. It was less than 3 years old, brand new
Yeah.
car, and I started repainting it. We did all the door jambs under the hood, under the trunk. I did such a good job changing the color that when it got wrecked, the dealer thought the dark brown was the original color. So
Oh,
from
wow.
there, we debadged it. We took off a little piece of stainless steel near the front rocker, took
The
off the
bumper
side lights,
guard.
and I painted it dark brown, a Cadillac burnt sienna fire mist with gold wheels. There you can kind of see the wheels.
Very nice.
So I still, then we put the whale tail on the back.
Mhm.
I made a spoiler for the front. And eventually, my friend was a painter. We talk about truck mirrors and van. He put a mural on the back of it.
Oh, wow. Okay, so yeah, I see
You
it.
look at like when we were talking about Smokey and the Bandit, obviously like a snowman's truck had that huge mural on the side. Yeah, that was huge in the 70s.
If you didn't have a van with a mural, you put a mural on what you had. So I was building a motorcycle at the same time. And it was a Harley Davidson. And I told him I wanted it black with flames. And he goes, I don't want to paint it black with flames. And painters can be very, I am an artiste. Do not tell me how to create. So
Andy knows.
I get that.
Andy knows.
I totally get that. Yeah, I went to art school. I studied it.
okay, so
I totally
here's my
get that.
chopper. I don't know. It's not the great picture of it, but it's kind of purple with some white fogging.
Mhm.
Big old Harley Davidson chopper.
Oh, nice.
Now you know why I like Easy Rider. This is
Yeah.
what I learned motorcycle on. He paints it white with a mural on the side of the gas tanks. I go to pick the bike up, pick the tins up. I'm looking at it. I'm going,
Liberace game in the motorcycle world.
yeah, I go, what have you painted? He goes, I painted it. Don't you like it? It's not a Honda. You can't put a mural like this on the side of a Harley. And it was a really nice mural. But there was no way in hell I was building a chopper with this snowflake fairy tale Peter Pan paint job. And it wasn't that bad. It was mountains and a locomotive coming out of a tunnel for the Fellini, whatnot.
Uh-huh.
And suggestive, I go, you got to repaint it. So he repainted it red with flames and was really pissed they had to repaint it. He thought I was kidding. I go, no. And then the bike wound up burning up on me.
Oh, wow.
So I sold it as a burned up wreck. But anyhow, yeah, the Mazda was fun, taking a stock car and just tweaking the suspension and tweaking the motor and put a roll bar in it and 5-point safety harnesses. So I had the dual, I had the lap belts of the anti-submarine belt. And normal people would get in it and kind of look at me like, what's all going on in here? And I had the Wink wide angle rear view mirror, which I don't even know if you've seen those. They're like 4 or 5 panels that you put up, which is really neat. It eliminates your blind spot.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But they vibrate because they're tied in at the end. So I had to tie it into the glass. But yeah, it was fun. And I told Robert, I spent way too much money on it, building it and whatnot, but it was something to do and I enjoy it.
Right.
And, obviously I still play with cars. I've never quite outgrew that.
You've kind of done the same thing to the Corvette that you have now. Like you've put like a racing suspension in there. You've put a lot of work into that car.
The 2000, I put a built motor into. Well, I built the motor mildly. A racing suspension, Coney shocks. the Trailblazer I lowered and headers and a tune, and the Vegas.
Oh,
I'm building a 2,000-pound car with 450 horsepower. It's, my mom gave up on me outgrowing this a long time ago. And, I actually have a t-shirt that says still plays with cars. So anyhow,
son of a bitch.
that didn't sound good.
No, oh, son of a bitch.
Oh, I forgot to turn the camera on. We have to redo the whole thing.
No, the program seized up on us. It's not responding. Ah, Jesus Christ. If I okay. Oh, okay, we're good. There's a God and he loves me. There's a God and he loves me.
Okay.
Hey, it is Easter when we're
It is
filming
Easter.
today, so,
It is Easter.
It is. Happy Easter to
the
everyone.
tomb is empty.
Yes, take that, atheists.
So
no, but yeah, Bruce, let me ask you, because you talk about about all the things that you've done with cars, and it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work that you put into these machines. And Robert was talking about how nowadays, not a lot, the cars that that they're pumping out just don't do it for him. And Bruce, you also mentioned that you lamented the fact that kids nowadays don't seem to be as into cars, as you are, or Robert is, or even people were just a short 15, 20 years ago.
and that's a generalization. There are kids in the cars, but
Right.
not like every kid running around has grease under his nails from tinkering on them. There's more
Right.
people taking apart computers and other
Right.
things.
Mm-hmm. But could it also be the fact that kids nowadays have it like pretty easy? I remember I was talking to this kid, and he was in about high school age, and kind of towards like the later end high school age, and I asked him like, oh, are you excited? 'Cause he was about 16. He was about 16, 17 years old enough to have his license. And I asked him, like, oh, are you excited to get your driver's license? And he said no. And I was pretty shocked to hear that's a teenager saying that they're not excited or eager to get their driver's license. And I asked him why not. It's like why do I need a license when when my parents drive me around?
Yeah.
And I my jaw hit the floor because I was like, why do you need why do I need a license when my parents can drive me around? I was just like,
God.
I was like, to get away from your parents.
Yeah. I can Uber somewhere. To me, it was wheels were the great American freedom machine.
Right. Exactly. Same for me. I mean, I jokingly would say to my, because I had two older sisters, and they would constantly bug me about getting my license, and they would always ask me, "Oh, when are you getting your license? When are you getting your license?" And I would, jokingly say to them, "Like, well, why do I need a license when I got you to chauffeur me around?" But but secretly, I was chomping at the bit, excited or eager to get my driver's license. And I mean, once I did get my driver's license and I did hit the road, by myself for the first time, it was like I can, it was, like you said, it was freedom. It was absolutely exhilarating.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of kids. They just look at it. I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, they look at it that way. What do I need a car for? I can call somebody and they come pick me up, and I get, you don't have a car payment, you don't have insurance, you don't have registration, you don't have gas, you don't have maintenance. Okay, yeah, you just saved, depending on the car, anywhere from a couple of grand to 10, 20 grand a year. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's nice. But you're relying on an app on your phone for some smarmy guy to show up in a stinky four-door to take you somewhere.
Exactly. I mean, and you're ultimately taking responsibility, uh, out of their hands too, because it's like no longer are you taking it upon yourself to get yourself somewhere, but now you're wholly dependent on someone else taking you places, and you're taking all responsibility of even taking the choice out of people's hands.
Yeah, yeah, I don't get it, but I grew up in a different generation, and I really try and remember that. When somebody tells me, "Okay, boomer," I kind of, okay, we were the last great generation. I get that. Robert's picture froze, so I imagine he's rolling his eyes and flipping me off, but
No.
He's just eating his mango or whatever.
Okay. And as great as having four wheels was, now magnify that times 10 and get on a motorcycle without a helmet. Back when we didn't have helmet laws, thanks to Gary Busey and the governor at the time.
Oh yeah.
Man, it was
Gary Busey did mess it up for a lot of people.
Yeah, and including himself. And
yeah.
I used to weigh that. I have insurance, I have medical insurance, and I know where I'm going. I don't need a helmet. It's, Sonny and Cher. Sonny, what's his name? Sonny.
Sonny Bono.
Sonny Bono.
Well, I could only think of Sonny Barger. Different Sonny. Skied into the tree. Killed himself. Well, we don't have laws saying if you ski into a tree, you have to have a helmet on. But I get a lot of these people didn't have insurance, and it was a huge expense for the state to put all these people on life support because they were vegetables. So I try and understand it. But yeah, that's why I love the motorcycle so much. It's the open road, taking my bike from here. Okay, so it kind of ties in with King of the Mountain. I was pent up. I needed to get out. I needed therapy. And I took the Harley. This was might have been my 81 Harley. I rode up to the Bay Area, and I took one all the way up, Highway 1, PCH, on my Harley. And I couldn't afford to stay in Frisco, so I stayed in Oakland. And one of those, little flea bag hotels where I could pull the bike in so I wouldn't have to worry about it at night. Because Harleys and Porsches both tend to wander away late at night. And and I've had one of each stolen. So I speak of the truth. And so anyhow, I pull into Oakland, I get my room, and I turn on the TV, and there they are racing Mulholland with Dennis Hopper. I just got to Oakland. I closed the drapes. I watched this movie, and I was just, this is so cool. What a great, But that's the first time I ever saw King of the Mountain. And I said, I got to remember this movie. I got to watch this again and pay more attention to it. And then I went about my business in Oakland. But the ride to Oakland, going up PCH, the switchbacks, leaning. It's just, I don't know if you ski or anything, but, you lean to turn and the wind in your face. It's like the dog hanging his head out the window, which I also do when I'm in the car. You're so in tune with the road. There's so little between you and the road. You feel everything. You'll go through thermal places where it's just 2 degrees cooler or 2 degrees warmer than it was just a block back. If you're in a car, you never notice that.
Mm-mm.
The downside is you'll be driving along and you'll start getting moisture, and you know it's not raining.
Mm.
Somebody in an RV or in a truck is dripping something, and you probably don't want that on your face.
Right. I
So you
think
got to ask the source of the leak.
right. What I like to when I went out to school on the west side, and I was traveling from the valley. One of my favorite things to do, especially on warmer days, like kind of like getting towards summer, was driving over the hill on the 405 with my windows down, just so I could just so I could just so I could feel the temperature drop as I go over the hill.
Instead of the freeway,
I have, yes, I have, yes, I have,
that, that's a blast. That
yeah.
makes that, yeah, it probably makes it take twice as long, depending on traffic.
Hmm.
It is so much more fun on Sepulveda. Left and
Oh,
right
yeah.
trees and the.
No, it's sometimes, yeah. When I was driving to school, sometimes I would drive. Uh, I would take Sepulveda, even though I knew it might tack on a few minutes. But but given that there was traffic, I think it was negligible. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was still a lot of fun to drive on Sepulveda, as opposed to the drudgery of the stop and go on the 405.
Get
My
on
passengers
way
get
that's
sick, but I
50.
didn't give a shit about them.
What was that?
My passengers would get sick, but I didn't give a shit about them.
Oh.
I did that to Tracy once. Tracy is really good. She can read a map and ride in a car without getting sick. That's one of the reasons we're still together after 28 years. And she doesn't feel and jump out and kiss the ground when the car stops moving.
Right. Was that
But
one of like the first? Was that one of the test that you gave?
it was not a requirement, but it's an added bonus. Well, we were on a skill rally, and I had just done some work to the Corvette, and we were up off, I'm going to say it was towards Decker Canyon. And it was a skill gimmick rally where it wasn't a known path. You kind of had to decipher the clues as you were going. And I was pretty sure we were lost. And I go, we're lost. You know what? I've got a great mountain road. So I'm just cooking. And the yellow Corvette goes pretty good in the mountains. And finally she reaches over. She's reading the map. She's, slow down, or I'm going to get sick. Roll your window down, hon. Yeah. Do not get sick in the car. And that's the only time I ever got her car sick.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I was just having a field day. Just this corner after corner, go gas, brake, upshift, downshift, gas, brake, upshift, downshift. And apparently I was enjoying it too much, though.
Oh.
And I'm super fortunate to have a wife who still lets me play with cars. And she's not standing here looking at me or anything.
Yeah,
Right.
no. Mom is. I am surprised with the amount that she lets you get away with.
No.
So she's the bestest.
Yeah, she is. And maybe she's standing looking at Robert.
Maybe. Why don't we give a quick our review of King of the Mountain, our star review,
Oh,
and then
I
we'll as Mom is looking at me right now, giving me the stink eye. So let's give our review of King of the Mountain. I guess we'll call that. We'll call the podcast I'm gonna say that this is it's a 2.5 star for me, because half the movie is awesome. It's great, and I want more from this film that obviously I'm not gonna get, but if I could go back and change things, I would change a bunch. I would cut a bunch of stuff out and add more stuff to it. But it's a
Seem to
two and a
dis-
half star. Yeah.
Okay.
You broke up on me, Robert.
Yeah,
Were you?
your video
Oh,
feed
I
is.
was saying it's yeah, it's a 2.5 star for me, just because it's not. I feel like a lot of the movie could have been cut out and been better. And wanted more from the film, but it's still it has good elements of the film.
Okay. Bruce, what would you rate King of the Mountain?
I'm probably going to give it a 3.5. For me, it's not a movie I would recommend to everyone.
Right.
I like it for its gritty realism
Mm-hmm.
of racing, street racing, maybe, or the canyon carving and the cars and not getting a lot of stuff out of sequence. But at the same time, I know if I recommended it to most people, they would come back and look at me like, I thought you liked me. Why did you make me watch that? So I'm going to go with a 3.5 for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I, and if you put it and Smokey and the Bandit on, I like them both equally, but Smokey and the Bandit's a little easier to watch. But I really, really like Robert said, a lot of the parts of King of the Mountain, even though I call it King of the Hill half the time. And start talking about
Propane
propane.
and propane accessories.
So it's 3.5.
One man's mountain, another man's hill. All right, 3.5 for Bruce. For me, I'm also gonna give this a 2.5. I'm gonna go. You know,
You
I'm. I'm gonna go
my
with Robert. Knife's Edge. It's a very, it's a niche film.
Yeah.
Kind of like uh, the, the the subculture of cars and racing. It's niche. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. So we can't. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody or to everybody. It'd have to be a very specific person. I just remembered what I was going with with my comparison with Fast and Furious. This movie was kind of like the template or like the proto Fast and Furious format. Yes, the first Fast and Furious movie they borrowed heavily, I think, in terms of plot and story from Point Break. But in other iterations, in the Tokyo Drift, the third one, the whole idea, they had like kind of like their own King of the Mountain in that movie, and it does culminate in a race down a mountain. So similar to King of the Mountain. That's just what I was trying to allude to earlier in my comparison to the two franchises or to the two movies. But yeah, this would be 2.5, similar similar to what Robert was saying. How if they had removed the B story of the music industry and things like that, and focused more on the racing and the Cal and the Steve characters and how They're just they're mirrors for each other. Cal sees himself in Steve, and Steve sees what he could be if he allows the obsession of the mountain go too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it, Andy. And both these films I think are well, Smoking the Mountain is just good for everybody. King of the Mountain is good for a certain uh element. Obviously, if you're looking for anything but like car culture and San Fernando Valley culture, you're probably not gonna like King of the Mountain. But these are two good movies. I think they're both worthy of watching, and obviously, Smokey and the Bandit has done more to pop culture than King of the Mountain has, because it's obviously the most recognized. It's definitely the most recognized film of the two that we reviewed today.
It's just more it's more commercially viable of the two.
Yeah. But I just want to say, like, I want to thank my dad for coming on. He's got a lot of knowledge that I like to glean off of for culture stuff, because he's a smart man. He knows a lot of stuff. He's lived a lot of life. And before we end this thing, where can people reach you, Dad? Because obviously you do a lot of stuff, and you are on social media. Where can people reach you to talk about what you do?
Thanks for the nice words. We will feed you dinner tonight. Let you out of that room.
Right.
Yeah. So you get to have a blanket tonight.
Hey, don't get carried away, man. Andy, thanks. Andy and Robert, thank you both for having me on. I enjoyed it. I will talk cars to anyone who will listen. I am on social media. I'm on Instagram, Bruce, the number 4 Adams, and I sell car care products, my side hustle. And I was thinking, pretty much if it doesn't have wheels, I probably don't watch it. Hollywood Nights, Vanishing Point, couple other good car movies. That, and Andy, you've been tasked with watching Bambi Meets Godzilla and Thank You, Mask Man.
Right.
But the next time we meet, I expect to see, a report on those two.
You got it, Bruce.
Maybe that's our next double feature review.
Yeah, it's too bad we missed Halloween, April 1st, because those would have been perfect movies to do, because they're parody movies. They're short, they're animated. The movies last a couple of, I don't remember how long Thank You, Mask Man is. Anyhow, they're cult level, not as much as Rocky Horror Picture Show, but cult level, and you might enjoy them. Or you'll just look at them and go, wow, Robert, your dad watched this?
I'll probably be like, man, those were some different times back then.
They were, and it was, and we were getting out of the 60s, and it really was a time of growth and social revolution, and I think that's why the cars were better, the movies were better, the music was better. And I see Andy holding up a sign now going, okay, boomer, get off my lawn.
No, I mean, after we watched and reviewed, what was the other Dennis Hopper movie? Peter Fonda?
Easy Rider.
Yeah, Easy Rider. I'm sorry, Easy Rider. Yeah, I did realize that the 60s and those were a time for a lot of like that movie seemed like art art school film. But it was very experimental in that sense. So it does track with what you were saying, Bruce. How 60s were a time for experimentation for
And
all things.
I don't look at it through rose-colored glasses. I know we had a lot of racism. We had the Vietnam War.
Mhm.
There was a lot, a lot of oppression. There was a lot of bad stuff going on too. I don't just, look back and say, "Oh God, I want to live in the '60s all over again," or
Right.
the
You don't you
'70s.
don't you don't suffer from a case of nostalgia.
Yeah, it was a good time. I'm glad I got to enjoy it. I'm glad I survived so I could share these stories with my son and with you and share them on social media. Um, next year I might be in the rocking chair. Okay, kids. So when I was your age, you little whippersnappers.
Hopefully
Uh,
not.
Yeah.
yeah, I might
Is
have
it
a
weird?
year or two ahead of me.
Yeah, it's weird. I can't wait to be that crotchety old man.
It happens sooner than you realize. I've got a big birthday coming up this year,
hmm
and it's not like what do you call it, midlife crisis.
Right.
It's just suddenly I'm looking at the number and I'm going, how the crap did I ever live that long? And I know
Yeah.
shit I did. It's like there's a God, he's been looking out for me.
Right. It's
And now
not.
this
It's
is
not. Yeah. It's not. When you get to a certain age, it's not like yay, I'm still alive. It's like how. It's more like how the hell am I still alive?
yeah, uh, you know, um, it's just it feels really weird. Um, but I enjoy it, and I still try to stay young with playing with cars and motorcycles, and trying to stay relevant to the younger generation.
Mhm.
And if I have something they want to hear, share the knowledge, and then chase them off my lawn.
Right. Be childlike, not childish.
Well, Tracy has given up on me growing up too. So
That's
it's
see.
time
Yeah.
See, you hear that,
you
young man? See, that's how you do it. You wear them down. You wear them down.
I did that with my mom. She gave up on me. She married me off to Tracy and goes, "He's your problem now." Yeah, she's like a smart girl. I thought you were brighter than that, but
It's like no givesy backsies.
yeah. So anyhow,
Well, anyways, thank you for coming on. Obviously, we're doing all this kind of remote podcast stuff going on right now. Um, so if you're into cars, you want to take care of your car, go to Bruce for Adams. Obviously, I'm wearing my Adams attire today. Um, my dad he'll help you out. He knows it all when it comes to car care anything, and he loves to see a clean car. Trust me. Um, and if you're looking for more, you know, Circle of Jerks podcast goodness, we have a lot of old episodes that you guys can go check out. Go to our YouTube channel, Circle of Jerks podcast. If you want to reach out to us on social media, we have our Twitter at Podcast COJ, Instagram Circle of Jerks Podcast. If you want to reach out to us and hang out with us on our live stream on Tuesdays, Nocturnal Transmissions at 8 p.m. ish, we got our chat up. We do movie reviews. We talk about stuff that's going on during the week, or just random stuff that we want to talk about. I think Andy and I are still talking about Tiger King. So if you're into Tiger King and you like to watch a good train wreck, there you
Oh
go.
yeah,
Watch come hang out, watch some Tiger King with
yeah.
us.
Tiger King might be train wreck of train wrecks.
Oh,
sad,
absolutely. It
sad.
and what? Oh, I'm sorry. What's that?
Sadly, they don't do real train wrecks for county fairs anymore like they used to in the early 1900s.
That's true. That's
Really?
the unfortunate part.
Yeah. That was a real event at county fairs, is they would wreck a train to draw in the crowds.
Really? Is
And
that where
then
that
they-
expression comes from?
And then they figured out we could bring the people in on the trains to watch the train wreck. And this is how you get the inclusion into the entertainment. We'll drive you in here on our trains. We will wreck 2 outdated locomotives, and then we'll take you out on the train.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
look
wow.
into it. Yeah.
Is that the? Because I know I've seen like archival footage of 2 like locomotives coming at each other.
Oh.
Is that from one of those events?
Yeah. And then they realized they could learn from it,
Mm-hmm.
from wrecking trains, learn about safety, same way they do crash testing now.
Right.
But yeah, it's something to see. I know I've told Robert, if you have never seen a train hit a car, you will never forget it. It was the early 70s, and it was a gold 65 Pontiac Bonneville stopped on the train tracks with a white interior, beautiful car. The crossing arms come down, and the guy, it was in Alhambra, and the guy is stuck on the tracks. He opens his door, walks back to the trunk, opens the trunk, grabs the briefcase, and whoosh, and the car is gone in a split second.
Whoa.
65 Bonneville is not a small car. And it's like a quarter of a mile down the road, and the guy is standing at the tracks holding his briefcase. And I was like 2 cars back, just going, wow. That was a one that just got wrecked. That poor car. See a train wreck in person, you will never forget that.
Of course, you'd have more sympathy for the car than the person.
If you know my dad, that's very, very true.
I mean, he was okay, but still, the car. I mean, if he hadn't been okay, I still would have been concerned about the car.
Yeah, it's like Bruce is the living embodiment of that meme from that movie Hangover, where it's like they went on like this this crazy car ride, and then the guy's like, yeah, but did you die?
Yeah. Very, very apt, Andy.
Yes.
Well, anyways, that is the podcast. Bonnevilles, or the story of that Pontiac.
Yeah, Bonneville lives matter. That's the takeaway. Bonneville lives matter.
In keeping with the Pontiac theme of today, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We had the Pontiac Trans Am, we had the Pontiac Le Mans, and now Pontiac Bonneville that has been destroyed that we need to care about.
There you go.
I like that. Pontiac lives matter.
Who cares about that Indian tribe? We're talking about the cars.
Yeah. Safety Aztecs.
Too much fun.
That's the podcast, everybody. I hope everyone is having a great week. I'm hoping you're enjoying the content. Obviously, we've been doing a lot of remote podcasts recently. Hopefully, everyone's staying safe. And we will have another episode very soon. And we hope that you interact with us. And we will see you next time.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yeah, no problem.
Anytime.
Deuces. Lick. Don't forget to lick your doorknobs.